Okay, last mile then, really. And if you've made it through to this point, well done. That's some pretty impressive stamina. The last thing we're going to look at is using delegated authentication. So using something like Facebook or Twitter or Google to do the authentication step for you, and relying on that organisation's infrastructure to make sure that users really are who they say they are. If you're working for a company with their own product, the odds are that you'd be working with form-based or basic authentication. If you were setting up some kind of new social media service for yourself, some kind of competitor for Foursquare or something like that that users need to log into, using social login might be a better choice for you. So, particularly for social apps, this sort of thing is quite useful. So we're going to have a go at setting up Facebook. The first thing you need is you need to be able to go to developers.facebook.com, because we need to tell Facebook that we want to use it to authenticate for a particular application. So here's me at developers.facebook.com, and then I've clicked on the apps link. You can see I've got some apps that I've been working with already listed here in my profile. I say create new app, and the app name is going to be AuthTest, and the app namespace is going to be AuthTest. I think it'll let me. No, failed. Hang on a minute. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll call it II AuthTest. That's available. Good. So that's going to be unique. I suggest you make it something like your name underscore AuthTest or something like that. We don't want web hosting. So we can click on continue, and then we have to go through this little dialog, which is EWT7CA. EWT7CA. Let's hope I got that right. Okay, so here we are. Here's the app screen for my AuthTest application. And the important thing is, if you were to maintain a development version and a live version, you'd need two applications set up. And the reason for that is having authenticated using Facebook, Facebook will only redirect you to the approved domain. So our app domain here is going to be localhost. If we were mounting an application at somedomain.com, then the domain would be somedomain.com. I want to use website with Facebook login, so I tick that. And this is the site URL where users will be redirected after they've logged in. So localhost, let's type it in, 8080 AuthTest. Okay, so that's the URL of the application, and that must match the domain. If I could put localhost.local domain here. I save that. I thought it might have complained about that. Let's see what happens if I do flibblibblibble. Yeah, there we go. Site URL must match the URL and be a valid domain name, so let's just change back to localhost. Save changes. So what I've done is I set up a Facebook application called II AuthTest. But actually that's my local name for it is AuthTest. And this will allow any Facebook user to log on, and once they have logged on, they'll be redirected to this URL. And Facebook has given me an app ID and an app secret, and we'll need those in a second. So back to our application. That's the prerequisite part we've just done. We're going to go. We want to be able to log in using Facebook. So what we'll do is we have to do Grails install plugin, and then here's the plugin name, Spring Security Facebook. So you can see how these are structured, and there's a Spring Security Twitter and a Spring Security Google and lots of other things as well. So it downloads the plugin. just wait a second while it pulls all its dependencies down. Good. And then it says after you've installed this, you need to run the startup script. So just run that now. And that's this step here in the document. So there are a number of setup steps that need to be run for this to work, and in particular, the Facebook authentication login needs a domain class that it's going to store Facebook information in. So this is separate to our user class, and it's asking me if I already have a Facebook user domain, and I don't. So no. And then it says please enter the name of the Facebook domain class. So I'm going to say Facebook user, and then it's asked me for my Facebook app ID, so I go back to my browser window and here's my Facebook app ID. Facebook app secret, that's this string here. Okay, all done. Let's ls Grails app domain. Oh, that's unfortunate. So it's put Facebook user in here. I should have said auth test .facebook user there. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to move it now, but you can see what's going on. So we'll have a look at that. Grails app domain Facebook user. So that's what it's created for us. And you can see it's imported our user class as well, so that it can link from the Facebook user to the authentication user. Nothing particularly exciting there. So that's it basically set up. Now there's a few extra steps I've put in the document here. This section asks you to add a few modules to your build config, and that is it's saying in dependencies add these two libraries. Now actually this would all work fine without these. What these are used for are when you log in using a Facebook user, you probably want to grab their email address and their real name from Facebook, and you need to configure Facebook to allow that sort of exchange of personal information, and you can do more. So you can request permission to post on behalf of that user and basically to become that user in Facebook. And the more permissions you ask for, the more things the user will see on the Facebook page when they try and authenticate. If you want to be able to do things like pull the user's real name back and their email address, you'll need this library and to write a little bit of code. I'm not going to go through that here, but it's just a pointer to you, because if you were to use this framework to try and build some sort of socially enabled application, and that's the only reason you really would use Facebook for login, then you'd need these. So I thought that was a pointer worth leaving in for you. So I've added those dependencies. The other thing that I need to do, I said you need to add these. They should have been added by the startup script. That's Grails app config.groovy, and down the bottom you can see these lines here, and we've got Facebook user, app ID and secret. If I wanted to move that domain class Facebook user into our auth test package, then I'd edit that there, but I'm going to leave it as is for now. So that's the majority of the setup. There's one last step to do. Grails app views login auth.gsp. This is the form for logging in, and you can see here's the login form. What I'm going to do is just before that form, I'm going to add a div. Sorry, let me just tidy that up. I'm going to add a div that puts the Facebook login button on there. And what it'll do is it'll say login as Facebook or enter a username and password. Right, all done. So let's do a Grails run app. So you can see it downloading the extra dependencies we've included. Starting our app up. Bear in mind that this is still really falling into form-based authentication, so our basic authentication for the API endpoint will still be authenticated using basic. I go back to auth test here, and then I'm going to click on the auth test API, secret controller, which is our secured controller. We get our login dialog, and now obviously I'm not good with the visual HTML stuff, but you can see please log in, and we've got connect with Facebook or username and password. So you can see how we might repeat this procedure, and we've got connect with Facebook, we might have connect with Google, connect with Twitter, whatever else the next big thing is. We might just add more buttons to let people authenticate with them. I'm going to click on this. Okay, and what's happened is, because I'm already signed into Facebook, I've not been presented with the Facebook username and password dialog. But what I have got is this page that says, there's an application called Auth Test that is requesting your permission to use Facebook to authenticate, and this app is going to access your basic information and your email address. So I click on Go to App, which is basically approving it, and and because by default, the user that's been created in Facebook isn't in the admin role, then this user isn't authorized to view this page, because users have to be logged in, but also have to be a member of role admin. So that's something that I've forgotten to do. So what I will do is, let's just stop the app, and can I remember how to do this? I'll read the fine manual for a moment. So what happens is, users created by this plugin by default get assigned a role called role_user. And I am sure configuration, here we go. Here we go. Here's the configuration option, and it's saying these are the roles that I want you to create when you create a user using Facebook authentication. Just go down to the bottom there. And let me see if not entirely obvious to me. So role user, role Facebook. I think this is a list, although I'm not 100% certain. We'll try it. And role admin. Okay. I'm not confident that's going to work. Yeah, it's a string, I think. I think it wants to be like that. I think that stands a better chance of working for us, or with a comma. So that's going to create 3 roles for users. Bearing in mind we're using the database that resets itself every time, so we don't need to worry about clearing down the user that was created. So I'm running the app again. I think Facebook might have remembered that I approved the application, so I'm not sure I'll get the same dialog when I try and authenticate using Facebook this time. And so here we go, back to auth test, and I click on secret controller. I want to connect with Facebook. Okay, and this time it's gone straight through because I've pre-approved the application, and now I'm automatically granting users created via Facebook the role admin privilege. We can now see everything as we did before. So new secret, etc. And what I'll do is I'll just create that. Here's our secret list, home. Let's click on the logout controller. Obviously, in a real application, you would make the logout controller a button on a toolbar somewhere. I'll go back to secret controller and back to the login dialog, connect with Facebook, and there's our secret. So that's an application now where the username and passwords aren't initially stored in the database, and any of you could log on to this application using Facebook and you'd be redirected and logged in. So that's quite neat, and you can see how you might extend it to other services like Google or Twitter for authentication. And as I said, if you read the documentation, actually, these docs make it reasonably obvious how you would do things like extract the username from Facebook so that you could display the user's Facebook name in this application, or you could grab their email address if you wanted to email them, all those things. So that, I think, is as much as I wanted to say about authentication, really, or implementing authentication. And hopefully it's a good starting off point for you, either if you end up in a situation where somebody's got an application that you're maintaining that already does authentication, or if you were to want to develop your own applications and have some sort of social media integration, or just for generally understanding a little bit more about how authentication works in web applications. I will see you in the week. Thank you very much.